Hello there, and welcome to Murder Most British. I'm Zach.
Hi, welcome. I'm Rachel.
Yeah, let's go. After the craziness with Maudsley last week.
That was a good case.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one. Like, to tell his story. And
to, there's not many people or criminals that have been locked up in a glass box for so many years, on and off, but most of his prison life he's been in a glass box. So if you listened to that case prior, tell us what you think.
Mm-hmm. Well, now we're off to Ireland to, oh man, this one was weird. Like, you're just thinking, oh man, these people are successful, everything's going great and everything, but then it just all goes downhill, snowballs, and you're just like, whoa.
Well, we'll get into the case in very soon and, tell you all about this one.
Well, before we begin, a brief message from the archive.
Well, on the 31st of March, the doors open.
That's right. We are launching our Patreon, a place for those who want to step further into the darkness.
Yep, early access, ad-free episodes, and bonus stories we won't share on the main path are coming available.
Yep. If you feel the pull, mark the date, March 31st.
If you enjoy the stories that we tell here, please follow the show, leave us a 5-star rating. It genuinely helps others discover what we do. You'll find all our socials, Discord and more in the link tree in the description below. And your support really keeps the archive open and ensures no story is ever forgotten.
This episode includes discussion of murder, solicitation to kill, and domestic conflict. Some listeners may find this material distressing. Listener discretion is strongly advised.
So now let's get into this story.
Yeah. After midnight, the Wicklow road empties. The last customers drift home, engines fading into the dark while chairs are stacked and glasses cleared from tables. Inside Jack White's Inn, the day reduces to numbers on a page. Tills are counted, totals are written carefully into ledgers, doors are checked and bolted. It is familiar work, repetitive and reliable. The kind of routine that ends the same way every night. Upstairs, a bedroom clicks off. Downstairs, one fluorescent strip hums above the bar as the final cash is secured. Outside, the fields sit black and still beside the main road. Traffic has thinned to almost nothing. The building appears calm, controlled, and settled. By morning, that control will be gone, and the inn will become the center of one of Ireland's most disputed murder cases.
Catherine Nevin was born Catherine Scully on the 1st of October 1950 and raised near Nerney in County Kildare. As a young woman, she moved to Dublin and found employment as a receptionist at the Castle Hotel on Great Denmark Street. The role placed her at the front desk of a busy city establishment, dealing with guests and managing bookings. It was at this time, around 1970, that she met Tom Nevin, beginning a relationship that would centre on a licensed trade.
Well, Tom Nevin was born in 1941 in County Galway. He had been married once before and had a child from that relationship prior to meeting Catherine. After moving to Dublin, he worked in the pub trade and developed experience in bar management and accounts. In 1976, he and Catherine married in Rome. Over the following decade, they operated licensed premises in Dublin and invested in property, including rental flats in the South Circular Road area.
Those Dublin flats formed a steady secondary income. Tom personally managed the properties, collecting rent and overseeing maintenance. He travelled to them regularly, often combining rent collection with business errands in the city. The discipline of managing both pub takings and rental income reinforced a working routine built on cash handling, ledger entries, and regular bank deposits. His working life was structured, repetitive, and closely tied to financial order.
By the mid-1980s, the couple were running the Berry House pub in Finglas, a busy suburban premises with steady custom. During this period, both moved in circles that included local Sinn Féin activists and some of the pub's clientele were reported to have Republican associations. The pub trade required extended hours and close management of cash flow. Then, in 1986, the Nevins purchased Jack White's Inn in Ballina Park near British Bay for approximately £270,000.
That's quite a lot of money back then. Yeah.
Jeez.
Quite a lot of money.
Yeah, they were doing really well to have, obviously they possibly got a bank loan or whatever.
Yeah,
but
that, and obviously they would have probably made a lot of profits from the inn that...
Yeah, from the pub they were having before, and then the rental properties and all that. But yeah, that's wowee.
Well, Jack White's Inn stood along the N11 between Dublin and Arklow, positioned on the main road linking Dublin and Rosslare. It was not a village pub, but a roadside premises, reliant on passing trade rather than a settled local community. The name predated the Nevins' ownership and is tied to Wicklow law about an 18th century smuggler known as Jack White. Local accounts place him along the British Bay coastline using a cove called Jack's Hole to land contraband, trading Irish wool for French goods. Tradition holds that he was arrested after a dispute with a landlord and executed around 1731. A reputed copy of his arrest warrant was displayed inside the inn, linking the building to that enduring coastal legend.
Wow, that's some history right there.
That's some interesting stuff there.
Yeah, named after a smuggler. Well, after purchasing Jack White's Inn, the Nevins expanded the business. A restaurant was developed alongside the bar, and the upper floor was adapted to provide bed and breakfast accommodation. The property became both a workplace and a residence. Catherine managed the restaurant and guest rooms, while Tom oversaw the bar and accounts. The business relied heavily on traffic flow. Holiday makers heading to British Bay, commercial drivers, and weekend travelers moving between Dublin and Wexford.
Well, the inn operated across two primary levels, so downstairs housed the public bar, lounge areas, kitchen and service rooms, and upstairs contained the guest bedrooms as well as the Nevins' private living quarters. Deliveries arrived at the rear entrance and staff moved between public and private spaces throughout the day. The blending of domestic and commercial life meant that work rarely felt separate from home, particularly during busy weekends when overnight staff were common.
Yeah, I don't think I could do that. Like live in the place that I work.
I think it's a full-time, owning a bar or something like this where it's bed and breakfast, bed and board. It's a 24/7 really, between the couple. It's going to be a 24/7 job. So, I don't think I could do. It's too much pressure.
When I would leave work, I wanted to leave work
and
come home and to be separate. You're not having that stress. Because like when you're just still there, you're probably just thinking about all the stuff that you need to do and everything. But like when you get home, you can just kind of compartmentalize and shut it off. Yeah. Well, by the early 1990s, Jack White's Inn had established a rhythm. Mornings began with deliveries and preparation for lunch service. Afternoons drew passing motorists. Evenings filled with regulars and travelers. Bank holiday weekends were especially lucrative, often generating substantial cash takings. Staff sometimes remained overnight after late shifts, using spare rooms upstairs. The pattern of operation: serve, close, count, lodge, repeated week after week.
Tom handled the financial side personally. After closing each night, he reconciled the tills, printed final readings, and entered totals into handwritten ledgers. He prepared cash for the bank deposits, sometimes carrying substantial sums to the deposit after busy weekends. He also maintained oversight of the Dublin flats, collecting rent and keeping records separately. Those who worked with him described him as disciplined with figures, attentive to routine and precise in his record keeping.
Yeah, I remember when my aunt used to own a bar. The little black bag full of money, like, here's the deposits.
Yeah.
But yeah, after a bank holiday, when everybody's out, partying, having a great time, that's probably gonna be a lot of money.
I've worked many bars, and you can take thousands and thousands of
Oh,
a
yeah.
weekend. So, it's
Crazy. Well, Catherine, she oversaw the staff rotas, suppliers, and the day-to-day presentation of the business. Employees later described her as organized and assertive, attention to standards, and conscious of image. She cultivated relationships with customers she viewed as influential, professionals, gardaí, and other local figures, sometimes offering complimentary meals or drinks to selected guests. And for anybody that doesn't know the police in Ireland, they're called the gardaí, or Garda for one police officer.
Mm.
So just so everybody knows that. Several former staff members described Catherine's management style as demanding, and she was quick to criticize in public.
Well, within the same walls, their marriage unfolded. Staff later described the couple as sleeping in separate bedrooms for much of their marriage, though Catherine would later dispute that characterisation. Arguments about finances and control of the business were said to surface periodically. By the mid-1990s, separation had been discussed, and there were conversations about buying out one partner's share of the pub. Work and marriage remained intertwined, even as tensions became more visible.
Nah, that's too bad. Like,
well, I'd
kind
like
of
a separate
apart.
room from you sometimes, just because you're snoring.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I don't blame you.
It's hard to be,
Oh,
work with your partner,
I'm like a chainsaw, man.
live with your partner, sleep with your partner.
I'm sawing logs every night,
You are.
baby.
You are so snory.
Well, security and cash handling were central to the Nevins' routine. The building was fitted with an alarm system and panic buttons, including controls beside the main entrance and upstairs near the bedrooms. Doors were checked at closing time and shutters secured. After busy weekends, significant sums would remain on the premises overnight before it could be deposited. Staff described the couple as careful about locking up and maintaining order at the end of each trading day. Yeah, very important. Okay. Someone coming in and robbing you.
Well, even after midnight, the inn did not always feel isolated. On peak weekends, employees sometimes stayed over, occupying the guest rooms after late finishes. The building functioned simultaneously as pub, restaurant, lodging house, and family residence. Beneath the steady hum of trade and routine, life at Jack White's followed a predictable structure. Books balanced, alarms set, doors locked, and the lights switched off before morning began again.
The 19th of March of 1996 fell at the end of the St. Patrick's Bank holiday weekend, traditionally one of the busiest periods of the year for roadside pubs along the Wicklow coast. Jack White's Inn had traded late, serving drivers heading back toward Dublin and locals stretching out the final hours of the holiday. After midnight, the noise began to thin. Glasses were cleared, tills counted, tables wiped down. Earlier that evening, staff had noticed curtains in the unused upstairs dining room were drawn closed, unusual in a space normally left untouched for effect. By closing time, lights were switched off one by one until only the rear service area remained illuminated, casting a hard fluorescent glow across the counter and tiled floor.
Well, Tom stayed downstairs, as he routinely did, to complete the accounts. Earlier, he had driven 2 regular customers home, returning to the premises at around 12:20 a.m.
Oh, you've done that.
Yeah, I've drove a few drunks home. Like, you're not getting in your own car,
Oh, yeah.
We need to make sure that you get home safe. And my main thing was just to make sure that they didn't end up falling over in a bush and then staying there for the night.
Or getting yelled at because they pissed in someone's hedge.
Yeah. I mean, the joys of being a bar person. But no, I definitely been there.
I wouldn't mind someone, pissing on the hedge, but if they're pooping on the hedge, that's different.
Yeah,
if you're squatting down and curling one out, I don't know about all that.
But no, it's a good thing. It's responsible, to
make sure
that your customers are safely returned home. And well, anyway, Tom went directly back to the counter to reconcile the weekend's take-ins. After a bank holiday, the cash volumes were higher and the paperwork heavier. A final till reading was printed shortly before 1 a.m, and he began writing the totals carefully into the ledger.
Upstairs, Catherine went to bed at around 12:30 a.m. No staff members or B&B guests were staying overnight. Rooms that were often occupied after late finishes stood empty, doors closed, and corridors quiet. Once the main doors were locked and were shuttered down, only the Nevins remained inside the building. From the Dublin-Wexford road, the inn appeared closed and dark, and the forecourt still. The only visible light came faintly from the rear, where Tom worked alone.
The service room was functional rather than comfortable. Fitted with shelving, cleaning supplies and storage boxes, Tom sat on a stool facing the counter, his eyeglasses resting low on his nose, pen moving steadily across the page. Completed sheets were stacked neatly to one side, others lay partially filled. It was a routine he had performed countless times: add, total, check, record, secure the cash, close the books, then go upstairs. The room was quiet except for the hum of the lights.
So sometime within the hour that followed, a 12-bore shotgun was fired at close range, within a few feet. That shot struck beneath Tom's right arm and traveled across his chest. The cartridge was later identified as a 9-pellet load containing heavy SG shot, ammunition more commonly used for larger game than standard birdshot. There was no sign of forced entry, no shattered glass, and no prolonged disturbance in the service area at the moment that the shot was fired.
Tom fell backwards from the stool onto the tiled floor. The stool remained upright. His glasses stayed in place and the pen was still in his hand. The ledger slid partly beneath his body, the figures stopping mid-calculation. 6 of the 9 pellets passed through his chest, crossing his lungs and heart. Death would have followed rapidly. Apart from the immediate space around him, the room remained largely unchanged, shelves still upright, papers still in position.
Geez, they were coming with some heavy-duty ammo. That's crazy.
That and close range, you're not going to survive.
I mean, just a regular birdshot, yeah, that's bad enough. But they're using heavy-duty, big game shit. That's, if you're coming to rob the place, what the fuck are you doing with that?
It's like overkill, really, isn't it?
Yeah, something, man,
Jesus.
Crazy. Well, upstairs, Catherine later said she was awakened by a masked man who pressed her face into a pillow and demanded jewelry. She said he held a knife in his left hand and tied her wrist and ankles tightly using stockings. Drawers were pulled open and items scattered across the bedroom floor. She recalled him shouting, quote, "Fucking jewelry, fucking kill ya," while searching the room, and said she believed she could hear movement elsewhere in the building.
After a period of time, she said the intruder or intruders left. She managed to free her feet, though her wrists remained bound behind her back. She did not go toward the rear service area. Instead, she moved downstairs towards the front entrance, where a fixed panic alarm was installed beside the door. The building was otherwise silent.
Shortly after 4:30 a.m., the alarm signal was activated and transmitted to Bell Communications, the security monitoring company. Gardaí were alerted and dispatched to the premises. Outside, vehicles continued to move intermittently along the Wicklow Road, passing the darkened frontage of the inn. Inside, the fluorescent light in the rear service room still burned above the counter.
More than £16,000 from the St. Patrick's weekend takings was later reported missing. The family's black Opel Amiga, normally parked outside the inn, was also gone. Inside the service room, the ledger lay open on the counter and floor, the final line of figures stopping midway down the page.
Gardaí arrived at Jack White's shortly after 4:30 a.m. in response to the panic alarm at the front entrance. Catherine was found near the doorway in nightclothes, her wrists bound tightly behind her back with stockings. She said she had gone to bed around 12:30 and was disturbed by the masked man who had tied her hands and demanded jewelry. She told officers she believed a second person may have been somewhere in the building.
She said that she managed to free her feet, as they were tied as well, and make her way downstairs to activate the fixed alarm beside the front door. Panic alarms were located upstairs, including one within reach of the bedroom, yet neither had been pressed. So she decided to go downstairs instead and do that one.
That's weird.
Yeah, the investigators also noted that a mobile phone was present in her bedroom. They recorded that she had crossed the building while partially restrained rather than use either device upstairs, documenting the sequence as officers secured the premises.
Well, the exterior was examined first. Doors, locks, window frames, and glass were inspected carefully. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken panes of glass, no splintered timber, no marks suggesting prying or tampering. The main alarm system, described by staff as routinely set each night, had not been activated. With no visible damage and no triggered perimeter alarm, the investigators began considering how entry or exit might have occurred without force.
Inside, officers moved room by room. Apart from the rear service area, the building appeared orderly. In the bedroom, Catherine said had been searched, jewellery laid scattered across surfaces and the floor, yet none appeared to have been removed. A fingerprint expert later established that only Catherine's prints were present on the jewellery box. Some drawers appeared lifted out and placed down rather than violently overturned, and 2 telephones were found off the hook upstairs.
Curious.
Very suspicious, I would say. If the person's shouting at her, asking for jewellery, and yet all the jewellery is still there.
Yeah.
I mean, why would you, if they took a couple of pieces of jewellery, why would you not take them all if that's what you're there for?
Yeah. I mean, I can
Thanks, fishy. Yeah.
With only having her fingerprint, he could have been wearing gloves. That's a perfectly explainable with that. But you're like, well, if he's sitting there saying, "Give me all your jewelry, or I'll fucking kill you," and then he doesn't take any jewelry, or takes a couple of pieces,
a handful, and then leaves the rest. Well, you just take all of it.
And I would think that, like, with them, they're well off. They're doing really well. I don't think she's gonna have just cheap crap.
Yeah.
And he's going to be
stuff from the bargain basement.
What is he going to be like, sorting through it? Nah, that's cheap. Nope, that's cheap. Nah, they give me that. He's just going to grab it all and sort it out later.
If I was an investigator, I would definitely be, this is pretty suspicious.
You'd be giving her that side eye going, okay.
Yep.
Well, in the rear service room, officers confirmed that Tom had been shot at close range while engaged in his bookkeeping. There was no indication of a prolonged struggle before the discharge of the weapon. The scene was photographed and logged before attention shifted toward reconstructing the timeline. Investigators focused on when the final till entry had been made and how much time had elapsed before the alarm was eventually activated.
Catherine said she had heard only a dull sound, quote, like a pot being dropped. Investigators later conducted sound tests within the building. A shotgun fired in the rear service area was clearly audible upstairs.
Yes, I'm sorry. Sounds like someone who have never heard a firearm.
They tested it, and even with the doors shut up there, it was still very clearly audible. So,
shooting it outside is loud enough. But you're shooting it inside.
In a building, it's going to echo in the rooms.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, what the fuck are you talking? It's going to be worse.
Exactly, because it's going to the sound is going to bounce off walls, and of course you're going to hear it. You will hear it.
It's not like a pot hitting the. Come on.
Well, officers described the sound as sharp and distinct as it travelled through the structure. The results were documented and compared against the account that she had provided in her initial statement.
Yeah, they compared it all right and went, this place.
There's no way that she would have just heard a dull sound.
Well, also, a till record showed the final entry at 12:43 a.m. Staff confirmed that balancing the accounts after a busy holiday weekend could take anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour. The panic alarm was not triggered until around 4:30 a.m. Investigators therefore examined the period between the last recorded activity downstairs and the emergency alert, establishing that That window became central to understanding how events inside the inn had unfolded.
Oh, yeah. I mean, many a time I've finished work in the bar at like 1 a.m. and you've got to count your till.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're so tired from your shift. You're like, sometimes I've had to count it twice,
Yeah.
you know, because you're just so tired and want to get out of there. So
Yeah.
I can imagine it would take a good hour
It's
to
good, yeah,
count.
a good hour. But then let's say he would have finished around 1:30.
Oh, yeah.
And
He
something
wouldn't
like,
have finished at like 4.
no. So they're saying, well, he was shot between 12:43, and let's say 1:43. So you got an hour in between.
Exactly.
And then she didn't flick the alarm until, 4:30 a.m. So you've got a couple hours there.
There's a big window.
Even if you're restrained, like she could have hopped around, she could have grabbed the phone, she could have done. The panic alarm's upstairs.
Yeah.
What's stopping you? That's really. Come on.
We'll move on with the case a little bit further and we'll see. We'll find out. Routine practices also drew scrutiny. Staff described the Nevins as careful about locking doors and setting the alarm system each night. But on this occasion, the system had been left unset. Previous busy bank holiday weekends had often resulted in staff sleeping overnight in the spare rooms upstairs. But that night, none did. Liz Hudson later recalled Catherine stating clearly, quote, "There's no one, and I mean no one, staying here tonight."
Okay.
Saying it in that way sounds like she's got something's, she's up to something.
And especially since usually they said it's
out
pretty
of the norm, yeah.
It's pretty routine for them to just, because it's 12, 1, whatever, and just stay here tonight. No reason to drive home in the dark and be safe. Just stay here, whatever. And then she's like, absolutely no one is staying here tonight.
And she means no one.
And I mean nobody. You're like, well, okay, that's weird.
Like, why? Well, what's the issue?
Yeah.
What are you up to?
Well, booking records were reviewed. Weeks earlier, a prospective guest had attempted to reserve bed and breakfast accommodation for the St. Patrick's weekend and was told there was no availability. Evidence later suggested that the rooms were in fact free. 2 staff members also described Catherine moving repeatedly through the rear hallway at around 11:15 p.m., an area she did not usually supervise. She later said she had been checking the washing machine. When the police examined it, it was dry.
Well, financial patterns formed another strand of inquiry. Tom routinely lodged substantial sums of money after busy weekends. On the Friday before the bank holiday, Catherine had contacted a bank to ask about the latest time cash could be deposited. Tom had attempted a lodgement but had not completed it. When investigators compared till readings and expected deposits, they calculated a shortfall estimated at more than £16,000.
That is not a small amount of money. Not
to me. That's not. That's
good
quite a good
God,
amount.
and for a bank holiday weekend, that is a good amount of money.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, it's all gone. Well, the family car, a black Opel Omega, or as you say, Omega.
Omega.
It's oregano.
Oregano.
Well, their car was normally parked outside the inn, and was missing in the early hours. It was later found abandoned in the Ranelagh, in Dublin. It was like a little suburb of Dublin. Its movement indicated that someone had driven away from the property before the alarm was activated. Officers examined the vehicle and logged its recovery location as part of the expanding inquiry beyond Wicklow.
Well, yeah, if the owners of the car were still at the pub, well how the hell has this car got over it?
Yeah, they stole their money and stole their car.
It's definitely part of the inquiry. Well, in the days following the killing, Catherine's behaviour was noted by officers. She refused suggestions that she stay elsewhere while the premises was treated as a crime scene, stating that no one was going to put her out of her own house. She expressed distrust of the local Garda station and was initially reluctant to provide a full statement. Officers later described her as agitated during fingerprint examinations, which is a bit daft because she lives there, she works there, her fingerprints are going to be everywhere.
Yeah.
So, if you're getting a bit agitated over having your fingerprints taken, that would suggest another bit of suspicion.
Yeah,
because
if you have nothing to hide,
yeah,
you just be like, yeah, sure, anything to
help.
Yeah, anything to help find my husband's killer.
Yeah.
Not, I don't want to do that. Get off out of my house.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of my pub. What are you kidding me?
Exactly.
You're just casting way more suspicion on yourself.
Yep.
By being difficult. But, well, at Tom's funeral, she told a senior guard officer that the smell of incense reminded her of the gun smoke she had detected in the kitchen on the morning of the murder. In earlier accounts, she had said that she had not entered that part of the building before the guardie arrived. Investigators recorded that remark alongside other inconsistencies in her statement as they continued assessing the reliability of her account.
Well, if I was an officer, I definitely, would not see that her accounts are very reliable.
No, not at all. Because if you're like, well, these incense smell like the gun smoke, the cordite, but you weren't even in there.
Yeah, so you're not the smell's not gonna travel up the stairs or down into the entrance of the.
It's kind of going to be localized.
Yeah. Well, inquiries widened beyond the immediate scene. Staff and acquaintances spoke of tension within the marriage and arguments about the business. A relative told investigators that Tom had once confided Catherine threatened to have him, quote, blown away if he refused to sell his share of the pub. Detectives began examining whether earlier expressions of hostility formed part of a longer pattern preceding the killing.
Okay, well, now we're starting to get a clearer picture.
All was not well with the marriage.
No, and when you have other accounts of people saying things like this,
yeah,
because in Finglass, Gardy interviewed John Jones, who said that in 1989, Catherine had asked him to approach the IRA about arranging a shooting staged to resemble a robbery. Come on. Well, Jerry Heaps describes similar conversations around 1990, including proposals to ambush Tom while he carried weekend takings. Well, that's two. But here's another one. William McLean said she mentioned £20,000 and insurance money during a hospital visit and asked whether he could get someone to, quote, do a job.
Yeah, see, listening to these, as an officer, listening to these three accounts from these three people.
It's not just one guy either.
And what they're saying does fit a little bit, what with the amount that was taken, give or take, she was pretty much bang on. Well,
yeah.
With the 20,000. It's all sounding a bit too...
It's a bit fishy.
Fishy for me. Well, anyway, in July 1996, Catherine was arrested on suspicion of withholding information. During questioning, she exercised her right to silence and was released without charge while inquiries continued. On the 14th of April of 1997, she was arrested again, but this time charged with murder and with soliciting others to kill her husband. The investigation had moved from reconstructing events inside Jack White's inn to building a case in court. So those three witness testimonies...
Yeah, and the aunt, I think it was his step-aunt, yes. Yeah. She's like, yep, she said this, he confided in me, and the other three guys are like, yeah, she was like, hey, can you kill my husband for me?
So the police were basically, well, we need to...
If it was just one guy, then you could be like, well, he could be discredited in some way or whatever. It's just one guy saying it, but it's multiple people saying, yep, she wanted this done.
Yeah.
Catherine Nevin's trial opened on the 14th of January of 2000 at the Central Criminal Court in Dublin before Miss Justice Mella Carroll. She pleaded not guilty to the murder of her husband and not guilty to 3 separate counts of soliciting others to kill him in early years.
What followed became widely described at the time as one of the longest criminal trials in the history of the state. Over the course of proceedings, 170 witnesses would give evidence. The trial would span 61 days of testimony and argument. But by its conclusion, 3 juries would have been sworn in the case.
Yeah.
3.
They went through,
3 juries.
We do explain that later, but the prosecution made clear there would be no eyewitnesses, no confession, and no recovered weapon. The case, they said, would depend entirely on circumstantial evidence, behavior, preparation, financial context, and prior alleged approaches to others.
Well, in opening, the state rejected the suggestion of a robbery gone wrong. Prosecutors described Tom's death as a killing arranged in advance and disguised as a burglary, with missing cash forming part of that staging rather than the underlying motive. They did not allege that Catherine fired the fatal shot herself. Instead, they contended that she organised the circumstances, ensuring the building was empty, the alarm unset, and access possible for another person.
Well, from the outset, public attention was intense. Media coverage focused not only on the evidence but on Catherine's appearance and demeanor in court. Miss Justice Carroll intervened early, imposing formal restrictions on reporting. Newspapers were prohibited from commenting on her clothing, hairstyle, jewelry, nail varnish, reading material, or courtroom demeanor. Photographs of her arriving at or leaving court were also restricted. The judge stated that the accused was entitled to wear what she wished without it becoming part of the narrative.
Rather than rehearse forensic detail already established, the prosecution concentrated on pattern and conduct. Staff described a marriage that had grown distant with separate bedrooms and frequent arguments. Several employees testified that Catherine had instructed them not to stay overnight on that bank holiday Monday, despite that being common practice after busy weekends. The state argued that this departure from routine was deliberate.
Jurors also heard evidence about Catherine's language toward Tom over the years. Witnesses recalled her saying she would, quote, have him done, or that she would, quote, sort him out. The prosecution framed these remarks as consistent and repeated. The defense countered that angry words in the pub trade were common and should not be elevated into proof or intent.
The most significant evidence came from 3 men who said Catherine had directly asked them to arrange Tom's death years before the killing. John Jones testified that in 1989 she asked him to approach the IRA about staging a shooting during the robbery. Jerry Heaps described repeated approaches in 1990, including proposals to ambush Tom after the bank lodgement or outside a pub. William McLean said she mentioned £20,000 and life insurance money during a hospital visit and asked whether he could get someone to, quote, do a job on her husband. Each account concerned different occasions, but shared a similar outline.
It proves that it was planned. You know, it's pretty obvious when you got guys saying she approached me in 89, she approached me in 90, multiple times. It really shows that it wasn't just a one-off thing or whatever.
She was trying to seek out somebody.
Yep, 100%. The defense challenged those witnesses, though, very vigorously. All 3 men had criminal records. Each had delayed reporting the alleged conversations for years. Counsel suggested they were unreliable, motivated by self-interest, or influenced by hindsight once the murder had occurred. The judge made the legal stakes explicit. So, Miss Justice Carroll directed the jury that the prosecution case for murder depended upon their acceptance of at least one of those solicitation accounts. If they rejected all 3 allegations of prior solicitation, the murder charge could not succeed. In practical terms, the credibility of those 3 men became central to the entire case. Yep, unless they agree, that's it. You gotta throw it out.
Well, when Catherine took the stand, she denied ever asking anyone to harm Tom. She rejected the portrayal of a hostile or calculated marriage and denied allegations of affairs with a retired Garda inspector and a district judge, both of whom also denied such relationships in evidence. She also sought to reframe her husband's character. In court, she claimed that Tom had been a member of the IRA, a claim that she had long kept secret.
Yeah, so there's allegations that she was being unfaithful as well. With some,
but the guys that she was supposed to have been unfaithful with denied that this was the thing. So
I mean,
who knows?
Come on, of course they are. I'm not saying that they did or not, but in this situation, I'm like, hell no, I don't know that lady.
And the standing of them, one being a judge and one who they're not going to want to sit there and say, yeah, we had an affair with this woman.
Yeah, it's not
so
going to.
Who knows? We're not saying that
career-wise, it's not going to be helpful, and especially at this time, and maybe they were also married, and maybe they were running around behind their own partners' backs, and they didn't want to get caught up in that as well. But who knows?
But like we say, we don't know. We're not 100% whether they were telling the truth that there was no such relationships. But yeah.
Well, the prosecution described this as an invention introduced only at trial. Garda Special Branch, which monitored paramilitary activity, confirmed there was no file linking Tom Nevin to the organization. Catherine further described him as a, quote, disciplined alcoholic, who would remain downstairs after closing time drinking alone, sometime mixing spirits into Guinness. The prosecution pointed to postmortem toxicology suggesting an intake consistent with 2 to 3 pints of beer on the night of his death.
Mixing spirits into Guinness.
Yeah.
We used to call it a snake bite. It was like, weren't really spirits, but...
Wasn't it like
it was
ciders
lager.
too?
Yeah, lager, ciders, Guinness, and some blackcurrant. That was, what was it? Guinness and black, they'll call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the snake bite, obviously. I think they banned that because that was quite...
potent.
Yeah. Anyway, don't make snake bite. Midway through proceedings, the first trial collapsed after 9 days when it emerged that jury deliberations could be overheard from the public gallery below. That's not good.
No.
Well, Miss Justice Carroll discharged the jury, and then a second panel was sworn in but later discharged before the retrial properly commenced. Ultimately, a third jury was impanelled. That jury, composed of 6 men and 6 women, heard weeks of evidence. During the retrial, proceedings were interrupted again when Catherine was taken ill and hospitalised before completing her testimony. The case was delayed before resuming once again.
A lot going on. Well, in the closing speeches, the prosecution argued that the case rested on accumulation. The emptied rooms, the alarm left unset, the financial background, the missing cash, and the prior alleged solicitations formed a consistent narrative, they said. They pointed to evidence that Tom held life insurance policies and substantial property and cash assets. The defense responded that suspicion was not proof. There was no gunman in the dock, no weapon recovered, no forensic link tying Catherine to the shooting. They urged the jury not to convict on the basis of disputed recollections of conversations said to have occurred a decade earlier.
Yeah, I do get that in some way because, yes, 3 people have come out and said they've had these conversations with her, but that's pretty much like a hearsay sort of situation. They can't prove that she had these conversations with them.
Yeah.
But the jury retired to consider its verdicts. Their deliberations lasted approximately 29 and a half hours, spread across 5 days, widely described at the time as the longest in the history of the state. On the 11th of April 2000, they returned their decisions. Catherine Nevin was found guilty of murder and guilty on all 3 solicitation counts. The murder verdict was unanimous. 1 solicitation verdict was unanimous, and the other 2 were returned by majority of 11-1.
Yeah, pretty clean cut, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness gracious. Well, Miss Justice Carroll imposed the mandatory life sentence of imprisonment for murder. In June 2000, the court imposed concurrent 7-year sentences for the 3 solicitation offenses. Addressing her directly, the judge said, quote, "You had your husband assassinated, and you tried to assassinate his character as well." Nearly 4 years after Tom's death, the criminal proceedings concluded with that life sentence.
Got
her.
After her conviction on the 11th of April 2000, Catherine Nevin began serving the mandatory life sentence for murder. She remained in custody while her legal team pursued appeals. In March of 2003, the Court of Criminal Appeal reviewed arguments concerning the circumstantial nature of the evidence and the judge's directions to the jury. The court dismissed the appeal and upheld all convictions.
I think that judge was really like wanting to make sure everything was fair, like the reporting restrictions, impaneling new juries because it was, in her mind, contaminated. People could overhear one, went above and beyond to make everything it was squared up. So I don't know what the fuck they're talking about, saying the judge, her directions were bad or something. Well, further challenges followed. In 2004, an application was lodged with the European Court of Human Rights. Though
we need to leave that.
Though it did not alter the outcome of the case. In 2010, the Court of Criminal Appeal considered an application under Section 2 of the Criminal Procedure Act of 1993, alleging newly discovered evidence and non-disclosure by the prosecution. After examining Garda material, the court rejected the application and declined to reopen the verdicts. They pretty much said, get fucked. In its judgment, the court found no evidence that the 3 key solicitation witnesses had been state informers and no newly discovered facts capable of rendering the conviction unsafe. The judges concluded that there was nothing in the material presented that gave, quote, the slightest credence to the allegation that the witnesses had been paid informants.
A further attempt to challenge the conviction reached the Supreme Court in 2014, where leave to appeal was refused. By the mid-2010s, every substantive avenue within the Irish courts had been exhausted. The conviction for murder, together with the 3 solicitation convictions, stood in full. The life sentence remained in force.
Separate from the criminal case, proceedings in the civil courts addressed Tom Nevin's estate. At the time of his death, the combined value of the pub, associated properties, and other assets were reported to be in the region of around £1 million.
Wow.
They were doing really well. In addition to his life insurance policies referenced during trial, the estate included rental interests and the licensed premises themselves.
Well, Tom's family moved to ensure that Catherine could not benefit financially from his death. The High Court ruled that her murder conviction could be relied upon in determining inheritance rights, effectively preventing her from profiting under succession law. The civil court's ruling ensured the estate followed the criminal verdict.
Keep her greedy hands off that money.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah. So following the verdict in April 2000, Tom Nevin's siblings issued a statement expressing relief that, quote, the person primarily responsible had been convicted. They said that while nothing could diminish their grief, they were particularly relieved that attempts during the trial to damage Tom's character had been rejected by the jury. Hell yeah. The prosecution case had been that Catherine arranged the killing rather than carried it out herself. The courts never established the identity of the person who fired the shotgun, and no individual has ever been charged as the gunman.
That's such a shame.
Yeah. Never been found.
But she's going to, keep saying that she's innocent and didn't arrange this. She's hardly going to give a name over. So, what with no new evidence coming to light of a possible gunman, it's, this person so far has got away with.
But I would think that after all your legal stuff, you've been shut out of the money. Mm-hmm. You've been shut out of everything. You have no appeals left. You're just going to rot there. Why not just be like, yeah,
Some of these people just don't have a moral compass at all.
She certainly doesn't.
You know, and then probably still live in hope that there might be one day that some miracle they'll be able to get out. But, you know, all hope is gone, I think, in this case.
Yeah.
Well, in the years after the trial, speculation persisted about who might have carried out the shooting. The Gardaí were reported to have suspected a criminal figure associated with Dublin's underworld, Eugene Dutchy Holland.
They always have to have a nickname, don't they?
Yeah, that's his nickname. Eugene Holland, his nickname Dutchy, who was later killed in an unrelated shooting. No charge was ever brought in relation to Tom Nevin's murder, and no court made any finding against him. Officially, the identity of the person who fired the weapon remains undetermined.
Public attention remained intense for years. The press label, Black Widow, became shorthand in anniversary features and retrospective reporting. The case was remembered for its scale, all the witnesses, how long it lasted, and for the extraordinary restrictions placed on the media commentary during the trial. During her imprisonment, Catherine's health deteriorated. She was diagnosed with a brain tumor and underwent treatment while in custody. By then, more than 2 decades had passed since Tom's death in March of 1996.
But that's the shame that she was diagnosed with brain tumor. Obviously, it's not a nice thing to experience and go through.
Well,
I know, obviously.
Listen, karma sometimes.
I get that, but
I'm a bit on the what you put out there.
Softy. I'm so it's hard. It's hard because I do feel for people whether they have committed crimes or not. You know, I do have it's weird. Like I can't really fully explain. Like I see that they've done super bad things, but I still have empathy for. Is it empathy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have empathy for. You know, if they're going through it. I mean, obviously with brain tumor, my aunt died of a brain tumor, so I know what this person would have had to go through. But
I think the way she conducted herself over the many years,
maybe I'm just a real soft person. I need to harden up.
I'm like, sorry, lady, sorry about your luck.
Well, in late 2017. She was granted temporary compassionate release on humanitarian grounds. Catherine Nevin died on the 19th of February of 2018 at the age of 67. She was quite young still.
Yeah.
Tom Nevin is buried in Barndurig Cemetery in County Wicklow, not far from the roadside inn where he worked for years. Jack White's Inn remains open. Traffic continues along the Wicklow Road between Dublin and Rosslare, as it did on the night that the books were being balanced and the lights were still on in the back room. The final figures in that ledger remain unfinished. Well, that was the sad story of Tom Nevin and the Black Widow of Jack White's Inn.
Yeah, Catherine.
Catherine Nevin.
Yeah, pretty wild story. For me, I was thinking about it. I was like, all the people that they plan these out, and they think they're so smart.
Yeah.
They think they've got everything covered, and they're just going to have some bullshit story, and the police are going to be like, yeah, okay. And
this is the thing. I think a lot of people, you know, the criminals that are murdering or arranging murders and things, they really think, oh, as long as there's no evidence, they can't tie it to me. Well, substantial evidence, circumstantial evidence, is in a lot of cases
accumulation.
Just as what's the word? Just as a matter of fact than actual physical evidence.
Yeah, but then trying
behaviors
to keep, but trying to keep your story straight as well.
Of things, yeah, exactly.
Like she would say something and then contradict herself, or she'd talk about the incense. Oh, it smells like the gun smoke.
Whereas if you're telling the truth on something, anything, your story will always be the same.
Yeah,
it will never falter because the truth is the truth. So if you're flitting from, adding in, oh, this happened and then this happened, and you're missing, it's like, hang on a minute.
But then also she gets tied up. There's a panic button nearby. Yeah. There's a phone nearby.
Exactly.
And then she waits couple hours to
You're
go
clearly
downstairs.
not bright because, you know, if that was me, I would have pushed the upstairs one. I would have phoned the police from, you know, my phone that was in the room that I was in.
More than likely, what
It's
happened
honestly.
was she let them in.
Mm-hmm.
They went back there, shot Tom.
Yeah.
Then they said, okay, we got some time here.
Yeah.
Let's tie you up, move some stuff around.
Staging all
of
of
it up.
Yep.
And then, and it's like, okay, you guys leave. Here's the keys to the car. And then waits there for a while until they can get away. And then goes down. But it wouldn't have been as suspicious if she just would have clicked the alarm upstairs.
Yeah. But this is the thing. A lot of, you know, these criminals and murderers and, you know, they think they're smart, but they really, really aren't. You know, a human cannot think of every single thing in a scenario, you know, and plan every single detail without fault.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're humans. We're not like programmed robots, you know.
But also trying to remember your lies.
Exactly. And this is where I said, you know, if you're telling the truth, your story is going to be the same every single time. So,
yep.
You know.
Well, thank you so very much for joining us for this story. We hopefully you
listening to
enjoyed
us
it.
babble.
Yeah, we're just rambling on. But we really, really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And if you value our work that we do here in the archive, please follow us and leave a 5-star rating. That would be absolutely excellent. It helps these stories reach further and keeps the archive growing.
It really does. Everything you need, socials, Discord, and Patreon, which we will be doing from
the 31st. Baby.
Yeah, we're so excited about starting Patreon. So
extra bonus episodes, ad-free. I mean, we don't really have ads, but no matter what, Patreon, it will always be ad-free forever. You'll get
extra content. There's
content.
Loads on there. You just have to check it out.
Yeah, when 31st.
Yeah. All of our socials and Discord and the Patreon that we'll be setting up is linked in the description below. So check it out.
So until next week, stay safe and stay curious.
Bye, guys and girls.